It's all rise and shine, and many thanks for joining us on News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. I'm David Alabi, and here are the stories making the headlines. Now we begin our bulletin with reports that all forms of police brutality and indiscriminate arrest of innocent Nigerians may now be a thing of the past following a new directive by Acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo for the immediate overhaul of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SARS). Segun Awosoya, the convener of the NSARS campaign, says the movement plans to sue the Nigerian police at the International Criminal Court on terrorism on the defenseless youth of Nigeria by the police. A statement released today by a spokesman to the acting president, Laolu Akonde, reads, following persistent complaints and reports on the activities of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SARS) that border on allegations of human rights violations, His Excellency Professor Yemi Osinbajo, SAN, Acting President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, has directed the Inspector General of Police to, with immediate effect, overhaul the management and activities of SARS. End of quote. While the statement provides some respite and hope, Mr. Awosoya says it is not too hurry yet until we see the outcome of the interpretation of this order. Now, away from that development, human rights organization Amnesty International has lauded the presidential directive to overhaul the Special Anti-Robbery Squad (SARS). A statement by the organization's media manager, Issa Sanusi, on Tuesday quoted its director in Nigeria, Osai Ojigo, as saying the directive was proof that the growing outcry over the brutality of SARS had finally caught the attention of the country's authorities. However, he stressed that although the move was a step in the right direction, the reforms must be robust to have any effect. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, with members of the Atiku Presidential Campaign Organization led by former Governor of Ogun State, Gbenga Daniel, have met the Oba of Benin at his palace during the Atiku Presidential Consultation Tour of Edo State on Tuesday. Former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, had appointed former Ogun State Governor Gbenga Daniel as the Director General of his campaign for his 2019 presidential bid. Mr. Abubakar, a retired customs official, first eyed the presidency in 1993, but said he was among those who stepped down for the late Moshood Abiola to emerge the candidate of Social Democratic Party at the time. In 1999, he won a race for Adamawa governor when civil rule returned to the country, but Mr. Olusegun Obasanjo, who had been elected president in the year 1999 general election, tapped him as his running mate. In November 2017, the former vice president returned to the PDP, which has now become the country's major opposition party. Now, to some party politics, the All Progressives Congress has resolved to explore every legal means to ensure that the President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, is impeached and replaced with a loyal party member. This was part of the decision taken at a meeting between the National Chairman of the APC, Adams Oshiomhole, senators and members of the House of Representatives in Abuja on Tuesday. The National Chairman of the APC, Mr. Oshiomhole, promised legislators loyal to the party that the APC under his leadership would reward loyalty, noting that the party's reward system would be one that would ensure that those who stood with the party in trying times did not regret it. He said, quote, high turnover of legislators is not a value to be celebrated. What we should celebrate is experience which cannot be read in books, but can only be acquired on the job. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on Tuesday announced the registration of 23 new political parties, raising the number of registered parties in Nigeria to 91 ahead of the 2019 elections. The Commission, in a statement issued by Muhammad Aruna, its National Commissioner and member of Voter Education and Publicity Committee in Abuja, stated that the registration was one decision taken at its regular meeting held on Tuesday. The Commission said it received 144 applications from political associations seeking registration as political parties. To some legal matters now, and Ikeja High Court has dismissed the murder charge filed against Mr. Moshood Salvador, the chairman of the Lagos State chapter of the People's Democratic Party. Mr. Salvador was remanded in the Kirikiri prison following his arraignment at a Yaba Chief Magistrate's Court alongside 10 others on 2 counts of conspiracy and unlawful killing on July 25. During Tuesday's proceedings, the vacation judge, Justice Obafemi Adamson, dismissed the charge after entertaining submissions from counsels on a counter-suit challenging the charge filed by Mr. Salvador against the state. Justice Adamson in the ruling said that in view of the advice from the Office of the Directorate of Public Prosecution, which exonerated the PDP chairman from the murder charge, Mr. Salvador should be released from the Kirikiri prison. Mr. Salvador and the 10 other defendants were charged over the alleged murder of Mr. Adeni Aborishade, the PDP chairman of Apapa local government area. Mr. Aborishade was allegedly murdered on July 21 during the PDP's visitation meeting that held at Etiosa local government area. Fresh controversies over the non-reinstatement of Nigeria's former chairman of the Pension Reform Task Force back into the Federal Civil Service, Abdulrasheed Maina, has not been seen in public view since his disappearance in early 2017 after attempts were made on his life. This was after he was dismissed from the Federal Civil Service by Nigeria's federal government, following public outcry over wide-scale fraud allegations which it denies up to date. Our correspondent, Amadin Uyi, reports.
Wanted by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, the former chairman of the Presidential Pension Reform Task Force, Abdulrasheed Maina, continues to be a fugitive from the nation's anti-graft agency. His reinstatement into the Federal Civil Service evoked reactions from across the country and was the subject of a public hearing by federal lawmakers. Mr. Maina was posted to the Interior Ministry, a decision the federal government revoked, though verbally. This some groups are calling an act of injustice.
If Mr. President is actually fighting corruption, should he disengage a civil servant who has volunteered useful information that has led to recovery of over 1.3 trillion? We strongly believe that some vested interests bent on sabotaging this fight against corruption are behind Maina's travels.
If you are aware, the other time when we were in the National Assembly, the CG immigration was there to make testimonies that Maina had never been in their blacklist. The representative of the IG also came and said Maina is at no time been on wanted list. The DSS also came. In fact, the ICPC acting chairman then came and said nothing of such. So for anybody to tell you that Maina had been confiscated or been on the wanted list is a fallacy.
They say Mr. Maina is the victim of a witch hunt and deserves fair hearing.
Why would Mr. President, in October 2017, verbally order his disengagement from service after succumbing to political pressure from the same thieves that Maina caused their arrest without following due process?
However, there are some who think otherwise.
It depends on which of the categories you belong to. For those who have their funds and who felt that as chairman of the pension task force, he stole their money, for those persons, they will not believe he is being treated unfairly.
One legal practitioner thinks in the midst of accusations and counter-accusations, judgments of the court should take precedence.
Yes, people believe he has stolen public funds, but even though I do not hold brief for Mr. Maina, the court order must be obeyed until such a time when a court of competent jurisdiction declares him guilty and sentences him accordingly.
While Abdulrasheed Maina continues to be on the run, many Nigerians, especially pensioners, will be hoping allegations of fraud by Maina, popularly called Maina Gates, is resolved quickly in the interest of justice. Amadin Uyi, Plus TV Africa.
Nigeria's Union of Electricity Workers barricaded the entrance of the nation's transmission company over unresolved disputes with the management of the company, while calling on the federal government to wield the big stick over claims of consistent breach of laid-down civil service rules. They are issuing a 48-hour ultimatum to the federal government to comply with their demand. The transmission company of Nigeria, located at the nation's capital, Abuja, manages and maintains Nigeria's complex electricity distribution grid, which provides power to almost 200 million Nigerians. It's time to take a quick break now. When we come back, the rest of the news continues. Don't go anywhere. Glad to have you back, and if you're just joining us, you're watching News on the Hour on Plus TV Africa. Malian President Brian Boubacar Keita has won its second round runoff election comfortably, according to a provisional vote count by his own camp. His spokesman Bukari Treta told reporters on Tuesday. The ballot pitted Keita against opposition leader Somalia Sis after an inconclusive first round last month, when Mr. Keita won about 41%. Meanwhile, Somalia says her Malian opposition candidate has said he would reject the results of a presidential runoff marred by accusations of fraud, violence and low turnout, calling on the population to rise up. Ballot counting was underway on Monday across after Sunday's vote that saw one poll worker killed and hundreds of stations closed due to insecurity. The fraud is proven. This is why their results we will not accept, Sis said at his party's headquarters in Bamako. Quote, I call on all Malians to rise up. We will not accept the dictatorship of fraud, he added. The presence of several armed groups in a densely populated region close to the Ugandan border is hampering efforts to tackle the current Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, as the hemorrhagic fever spreads to the second province. Ituri defined an ongoing vaccination campaign. The UN Refugee Agency reports that it is intensifying efforts to reduce the spread of the deadly Ebola virus as refugees flee DR Congo. The Congolese Health Ministry and World Organization yesterday accounted for 57 total deaths recorded and 14 of the deaths were confirmed by lab tests. When we return, we'll bring you more stories from the foreign scene. Don't go anywhere. And on the foreign scene, a Taliban attack on a military outpost in northern province of Baghlan in early hours of Wednesday killed as many as 44 Afghan police and soldiers, provincial officials have said, as the insurgents kept up pressure on government forces. There was no immediate comment from the Ministry of Defense, but officials in the area said 9 police and 35 soldiers were killed in the attack, the latest in a series that have killed dozens of members of security forces in provinces across Afghanistan. Israel's defense minister has announced it will reopen the main cargo crossing with the Gaza Strip on Wednesday if the relative calm of recent days continues. Avigdor Lieberman also said the fishing zone of Gaza's coast would once more be extended to 17 kilometers. Israel shut the Kerem Shalom crossing for all but humanitarian deliveries 5 weeks ago in response to attacks by Palestinians along the border. Rights groups said the move amounted to illegal collective punishment. Kerem Shalom is the main lifeline for the 2 million people living in Gaza, and the territory's economy is almost entirely dependent on it. Rescuers in the northwestern Italian city of Genoa continue to search for possible survivors after the dramatic collapse of a motorway bridge. The Interior Minister said at least 35 people were killed when dozens of vehicles fell 45 meters. About 16 people were injured in the collapse, and the number missing ranges from 4 to 12. About 250 firefighters from across Italy are taking part in the search using sniper dogs and climbing gears. More than 400 people have been evacuated amid fears that other parts of the bridge might still fall. It's now time to move over to Edidia as she brings us news from the business scene.
This is Business News and I'm Edidiong Iwang. Well, Nigeria incentive-based risk-sharing system for agricultural lending, NIRSAL, has projected the country's agricultural export revenue to reach $4.4 billion, and that's 1.6 trillion naira by the end of the year. The managing director of NISAR, Aliyu Abdul Hamid, says NISAL has disbursed $373 million to farmers in the past year to help increase production of export crops. According to Bloomberg, he said, the credit's beneficiaries are mainly smallholder farmers growing cotton, rice, oil palm, cassava, and corn. At average yield of 4 tons per hectare, these optimized smallholder farmers' production would generate a gross output of about 16 million tons. Now, the chief strategist at the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Mr. Bola Wunti, says in the next 3 years, NNPC aims to take the position of the leading national oil company in Africa. He says the NNPC has developed a 3-phase corporate strategy aimed at optimizing opportunities within the oil and gas market. The 3 phases include the survival phase, which will span till 2018, the consolidation phase, which will commence in 2019, and the long-term phase, which will begin fully by 2021. Adding to this, he said the NNPC within this time frame would have expanded its business footprints beyond the shores of Nigeria, first as a net exporter of refined petroleum products and then a hub for other hydrocarbon business. Now, on the activities of the Nigerian Stock Exchange from yesterday, our business correspondent Irene Ubani brings us up to date on all the trades that took place.
The all-share index dipped by 0.35% at the Nigerian Stock Exchange to close at 35,288.23. International bureaus led the list of top gainers with a 1.75 naira increase in share price, while NASCON gained 55 kobo in its share price from its previous close. Leading the list of top decliners was Flour Mill, which had a 2 naira drop from its previous close. UACN also declined by 1.35 naira from its previous close. Transactions in the shares of UBA topped the activity chart with 26.8 million shares valued at 250.6 million naira. Market capitalization stood at 12.883 trillion naira and total deals was 3,448. Irene Ubani reporting for Plus TV Africa.
Well, that's it on business news, but still to come is our roundup on entertainment and sport. We'll be back in a moment.
And in entertainment, following the directive by the acting president Yemi Osinbajo to overhaul the activities of SARS, Rugged Man has dared Assistant Commissioner of Police Yomi Shogunle, who is known to post tweets mocking NSARS, to react in his usual manner to the development. Rugged Man took to Twitter to mock the ACP, and he wrote, Yomi Shogunle, I can't wait to see your usual tweet mocking the NSARS statement. It's your usual way, so let's see it. He ended the tweet with a smile emoji. 30-year-old fashion entrepreneur Laura Ikeji, younger sister of Linda Ikeji, has taken to her Instagram page to tell her followers the reason why she's always flaunting her wealth on social media. According to her, she suffered while growing up, and this prompts her to showcase her new life of opulence. She wrote, when you come from poverty and make it big in life, it's hard not to show off. When you come from a bedroom and parlor house to a mansion in the most expensive neighborhood on the continent, it's hard not to show off. But Dangote doesn't show off. Well, did Dangote suffer like I suffered? And that's it on entertainment. The very best in sports right after this.
Hello and welcome to Sports Update on Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko. In football, Nigerian striker Obafemi Martin started light training on Tuesday in Lagos after rupturing his muscle fiber in April. He got that injury while he was in action for Shanghai Shenhua against the Kashima Antlers in the Asian Champions League in April. And he has since then undergone a successful surgery in London and gradually working his way back to full fitness. I remember Martins has scored 19 goals in 40 games in the Chinese Super League games since he made his debut in 2015 for Shanghai Shenhua. And Russian club FC UFA announced that on their official Twitter handle on Tuesday that they have terminated the contract of their Nigerian forward Kehinde Fatai. The club has not given any reason for their action or Fatai's next destination. And Fatai linked up with UFA from Czech Republic club Sparta Prague in August 2016 on a 3-year contract. And he becomes the second Nigerian to have his contract terminated by a Russian club after Aaron Samuel left CSKA Moscow by mutual consent. And in the transfer, Steven Nzonzi has completed a £27 million move to Serie A side AS Roma from Sevilla. Nzonzi finalized terms after undergoing a medical in Rome on Tuesday afternoon. He arrived in the capital city to complete the switch, where he was greeted at the airport by a group of the club's loyal fans. And Roma confirmed the news with a characteristically colorful announcement video featuring fighter jets, rap music, and police motorbikes that eventually saw Nzonzi emerge from a black vehicle to meet supporters. Nzonzi later posed for photos with Roma's director of football, Monchi, who he worked with at his former club, Sevilla. And the Frenchman had been linked with a return to the Premier League with Arsenal, but the Gunners would have needed to sell players before bringing him into the club. And that's it on Sport Update on Plus TV Africa. I am Udoka Njoko.
Many thanks to Udoka, and that's our news roundup of events at this hour. For more news updates and broadcasts, please follow us at Plus TV Africa on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And please do remember to subscribe to our YouTube page at Plus TV Africa. We'll be back later with more stories making the headlines by midday. Do join us again. I'm David Alabi. Do have a great day.